Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Area 1 Conference. Thank you for all of you joining today. We greatly appreciate it and want your participation and feedback. I am Joanne Nelson, your Area 1 representative. The Illinois Retired Teachers Association is graphically split into 6 areas. Area 1 comprises members living in the state's northern west and northern central counties. I serve as your area representative on the association's board of directors. Today you will hear all about the latest news and information from the association, our lobbyist and legislative affairs team, the political action committee, our TRS annuitant trustees, a recently completed external organizational assessment, and member benefits from our great partners at AMBA. This conference will be recorded to share with other members who could not be with us today. Accordingly, please be aware that other participants may be able to see you. Please take care not to screen your screen if you are live on the virtual stage. Anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. Chats in the lounge or in speed networking are not being recorded. During today's virtual conference, the IRT expects all members to observe all meeting etiquette rules, the same as if you were attending this meeting in person. Shortly, I will introduce our first speaker. During a speaker's presentation, I encourage you to write any questions you have in the chat or in the Q&A dialog box. You may also use the raise hand feature to ask your question live if your computer or device is capable. If you click the raise hand feature, the AirMeet technical host will bring you on stage to ask your question live. Additionally, for the hearing impaired, I encourage you to use the closed captioning feature. The closed captions are computer generated, although not perfect. They are rated to be approximately 90% accurate and will surely be a boost for anyone who cannot hear very well. Click the CC button underneath your video window to toggle the closed captions on. Before we begin, we have two $50 gift cards to give out as door prizes. 2 more gift cards are going to be given out at the conclusion of the meeting. Per the motion passed by the board of directors, the members eligible for the registered members, you had to be registered to be on our Wheel of Fortune. And let's now give the Wheel of Names a spin to see our first winners. And there she goes. Whoa, Deborah Torrey, you are our first winner. Okay, spin it again. Joe Vermeer is our second winner. A $50 gift card through Amazon. Okay, another thing that we're going to be doing, if time permits, we're going to go ahead and have tables at the end that you can go to, and one of those are going to be for our presidents that are joining us today. Linda Knott from Region 1 is going to host that, and we're going to have a little bit, so we can have a discussion with the presidents, their concerns and stuff through this COVID time. Let's see. I will return at the conclusion of the conference for final remarks and to spin the wheel 2 more times for 2 more winners. Now it is my pleasure to introduce the president of the Illinois Retired Teachers Association, John Flaherty, for the State of the Association address. John.
Good morning. I want to thank all of you for being members of our Illinois Retired Teachers Association. We are able to stay a strong and vital force that fights to protect our pensions and benefits because of the strength and support of our members. I extend an enthusiastic welcome to your area representative for hosting this event, our Vice President, Bill Funkhauser, members of the Board of Directors, IRTA Executive Director Jim Bachman, and the IRTA staff, and all others in participation today. It is exciting to be here with you at this, our first virtual area conference of this association. Because this has been a year filled with unprecedented experiences and challenges for countless organizations, many of you may be wondering how our association is doing. Therefore, I want to begin the conference by first assuring all of you that the association is strong and secure. Here are a couple examples. Membership continues to steadily increase. During the past 5 years, the IRTA has outperformed peer associations who reported just 2% growth. Our association performed at 7% growth. The national median performance was 5% growth. Our renewal rate is statistically significant. In each of the last 5 years, the association experienced 90% retention. The mean renewal rate for individual membership associations is 78% nationwide. Today, we are more than 39,000 members. Membership growth and renewal success is attributed to systemic membership changes made by the membership committee led by our committee chair, Mike Schmidt, with the assistance of the Director of Marketing and Membership, Nathan Mihelich. It is important that I point out that these successes are especially noteworthy given that the association is impacted with a passing of approximately 80 members every month. The member loss is a sobering fact and demonstrates that our commitment and investment in membership efforts cannot be underscored strongly enough and must continue. The association is financially strong thanks to skilled fiscal management by the Board of Directors and Executive Director Jim Bachman. The association reports close to $2 million in total equity as of today. In 2020, donations to the foundation exceeded all previous years on record at $360,000. This was up from $293,000 in 2019 and $320,000 in 2018. Programs supported included grants to current teachers, scholarships, and housing assistance. In the election year that was 2020, the Political Action Committee's income and political donations equaled approximately $75,000 each. Total expenses were $123,000. Membership in the $1 per month PAC donation program is at 5,526 members. We eagerly encourage everyone to join. The amount in the Legal Defense Fund was at $153,000 as of December. With all of our external challenges, the Association, Foundation, and Political Action Committee each continue to fulfill their missions at every level. We have fulfilled these purposes with a combination of new practices, agility, and with fortitude for success. Two of our most recent great achievements were, one, the successful virtual mentoring program. The virtual mentoring program, executed by Jim Bachman and the association staff, matched any Illinois student with a retired mentoree and tutor during the early months of the pandemic when school was at home and both teacher and student were new to learning virtually. The program was offered free of charge to students of any level of assistance. The program was a tremendous success, and the association received exceptional media exposure for our selfless retiree volunteers who gave countless hours during a period of great need. Second was the We Care program, in collaboration with AARP to let our members, many of whom were homebound, know that they are cared for and thought of during the most anxious early months of the pandemic. The association reached out via Facebook and email for this popular program, and we hosted a virtual webinar to offer support and listen to their stories. All were very well received and appreciated. It is clear that the pandemic brought about changes to how our organization operates. I am proud and thankful to see how smoothly we were able to roll out our virtual meetings, to get work done via telework, and to perform with flexibility while adjusting many activities conducted by the association. There may even be more changes required in the future, however. Therefore, to make sure that our association remains valuable and meaningful, we need to reevaluate this organization, beginning with the Constitution and the bylaws, and we recently conducted a needs analysis of day-to-day operations. The Executive Committee hired an independent consultant to analyze our constitutional structure and existing operations. Final recommendations from the consultant included changes to our Constitution so we can operate more virtually, a more realistic role to the responsibility of volunteers, and a full analysis of boards and committees to determine if each is meeting the needs of our membership. As delegates to our biennial convention in Springfield in October, you will be voting on several of these proposed changes. I would encourage all of you who are interested in attending to work with your local units and become delegates to our convention. October's biennial convention is the most important business meeting for the association, and this is where we elect leadership, set policies, and procedures for our organization. As we look forward, we will use the resulting recommendations, the progresses already made because of the pandemic, and our overall flexibilities as a platform to us to speed up our transformation to an organization so that we will continue to grow and prosper and always be prepared for the unexpected. Thank you for allowing me to describe the present status of the association. Thank you again for attending this virtual conference. Let's begin with the formal program. Our first presentation is from our Legislative and Government Affairs team that will give a legislative update. And if you followed the recent legislative session, as I did, I know you may all have some concerns. It is my pleasure to introduce the association's Executive Director, Jim Bachman, our association's contractual lobbyist, Andrew Bodewith, and our Legislative Affairs and Grassroots Coordinator, Courtney Hayes. Jim, Andrew, and Courtney.
Well, thank you, John, and good morning, everyone. Today with me, I am Jim Bachman. I'm the Executive Director of the Illinois Retired Teachers Association, and with me today is Courtney Hayes, our Government Affairs Grassroots Coordinator, and Andrew Bodewis, our Contract Lobbyist. It's great to be here with all of you. Today we're going to talk about a little bit about legislation and items that Courtney will be working on in the next couple of months that are pertinent to the association. Let's start off by, I know the last couple of years, Andrew, that we've been working on some health insurance trip refund with the Department of Central Management Services. Can you tell us a little bit about where that legislation is?
Absolutely. So we filed language on Senate Bill 2168 this year that would have allowed for, or does allow for, folks who overpaid their trip or trail premiums to get a refund of that. Currently, CMS limits those refunds to 6 months, and we wanted to expand that to 7 years. And we filed similar legislation a year ago, but because of the pandemic, the General Assembly didn't act on that or really much of anything else. So this year filed Senate Bill 2168. It moved out of the Senate. Unfortunately, it hit a little bit of a snag in the House, but we took the exact same language, brought it over as an amendment to Senate Bill 1056. That was a joint effort from Democrats and Republicans who support the IRTA. They got that amendment filed on 1056, and that bill is now on the consent calendar and is moving along, and we're looking forward to passage.
Well, and I know in the past, in the last few years, and we had passed it previously, and the governor had signed it, but we had some difficulties with the department or phrasing of the actual language and so forth. Is the department now on board?
Yes. So we sat down with the department, had multiple phone calls with the sponsors and with the department, and they understand the group that we're trying to help, and they have agreed that once this comes into law, that they're going to move expeditiously to get those refunds processed.
Is there any other pieces of legislation right now outside of the budget that we are looking and following?
Yeah, so there's a couple of bills out there, and these are familiar bills. We do this every 2 years, but these are the bills that extend the return to work extension. So for folks who have retired, who want to come back and teach either in a subject shortage area or not in a subject shortage area, those things sunset every couple of years, and we have to extend them every couple of years. House Bill 2569 is the subject shortage area, and Senate Bill 1989 is the standard 120-day extension. So both of those bills have moved through without any no votes, and are, again, both are on the consent calendar and both are poised for passage.
And, I'll just stop right here for a moment just to say that if you have any questions, please use your chat or raise your hand function to ask your questions. And at the end of our presentation, we will attempt to answer any and all of those questions. So thank you. Before we go back to Courtney, give me a little bit of idea of what we're doing with the PAC right now, or what are we looking forward to? What are we doing to raise funds?
So right now I'm trying to reach out to all the locals. We are asking for our 2021 IRTA convention. If you can donate anything, any item, they could be monetary donations. So I'm trying to get all of that in order so we can have money for the PAC.
And it's, and obviously those are tremendous things, and it's a lot of fun when we're at convention, when people are bidding on different items and so forth. But it ultimately helps our cause.
Yes.
And what is that cause? Ultimately, that's electing legislators of the future and today and the present that support IRTA members' benefits. Andrew, tell me where we're at on budget these days.
Well, every as you all know, every minute it changes a little bit. From a global perspective, there's a lot of federal money that's coming into the state of Illinois right now, and that should help the state. As everybody knows, the state of Illinois has a long history of having budget woes. The federal money should help, but an interesting thing about the federal money is it's one time, so they can't build it into the budget and increase future year spendings. And the other thing is that it comes with a lot of limitations that are set by the federal government on how it can be spent. It's supposed to be being spent to improve infrastructure, going to school districts to help with them increase and respond to sort of the last couple of years of pandemic impact, do more tutoring, more summer school, things like that. So the federal money is helping a little bit. From our perspective, from the IRTA's perspective, we haven't seen any proposals except for full funding for TRIP and trail programs, so that's critical. There is discussion about a very minor change to the TRS certified amount, and it has to do with a small timing change that the General Assembly is considering. It might reduce the contribution a fraction of a percent. But realistically, the way I would describe it is right now we're looking at full funding for both TRS and TRIP program, which is a good place to be. The governor historically has talked about changing that, but this year we seem to be on pace to get the full funding for both of those programs.
And I know, just as a side, that I have seen that the Thompson Center in Chicago is now for sale, and I know that the governor spoke of last year, I think, in his budget address, that some of that money would actually go to funding of the pensions. Is that still on board, or the sale of some of these?
You know, I think this year's not unlike every other year, where despite the fact that I think we will get full funding, I think it'll be pulling everybody over the line to get there. I always really appreciate when people talk about extra funding, but in 20 years I haven't seen it. I always leave the option open that maybe they'll change.
Right.
But I wouldn't spend that Thompson Center money just yet if I were the funds.
Okay. Courtney, I know that also that you're going to be working on another project this summer. Can you tell us a little bit about your project?
Sure. So I'm working on developing a legislative contact list, which basically means I'm going to be reaching out to our members in certain areas of the state, just so we have a list to know who would be open and willing to go meet with their legislators if we have any issues concerning whatever it may be. We also have a whole bunch of new legislators who we would like to get our name out. So I would look out for emails from me this summer and go from there.
Yeah, I think the list of grassroots contacts that we can reach out, especially in a year that Andrew, obviously, that one of the last and the final issues, that one of the biggest things that are going on in the General Assembly is the redistricting map. And so from that map, obviously, that we're going to have a lot of new legislators being elected and a lot retiring and so forth. So why don't you tell us a little bit where we're in that process?
Yes, so in the Illinois General Assembly, every 10 years there's a new map. And that means that, and then that is happening right now. As a matter of fact, we've just seen the map. We're still going through it, still analyzing it. So it's brand new, hot off the presses. But what that means is that folks' legislative districts are going to change. I'll just use Springfield as an example. So Springfield used to be divided up, between a couple of different representatives and senators and everything, and that area is completely changed. Quad Cities is another area that doesn't look anything like it used to look. And that's true throughout, and especially as we talk in the suburbs in the city of Chicago, because each rep district is about 100,000 people, each Senate district is about twice that, 230,000 people, 220,000 rather. The districts in Chicago and the suburbs are much smaller than they would be, say, in the southern part of the state. So those areas have really changed a lot. And that means for a lot of you that your rep and senator may change. And so this is a political thing, right? This is a political animal in that these maps are drawn by Democrats in Illinois right now, this time anyway, and last several times. And they are designed to put as many Democrats in the House of Representatives and the Illinois Senate as possible. So there's a lot of political angst. Having said that, that doesn't mean that every Democrat in the House or Senate is necessarily going to be happy with this. So there's a lot of data that's going to be coming out. There'll be a lot of lawsuits on all of this. At this point, all we have are proposals. But it'll certainly be an issue that really impacts every one of our members as that changes and as that forecasts what the future of the General Assembly looks like. As part of that process, there'll be retirements. There'll be new folks that are coming in. And the state IRTA is going to be really working to develop a lot of new relationships. And we've had some experience with this every couple of years for the last few times. We've had a lot of new people come in, but that will amp up over the next 2 and 4 years.
Well, and I think that also obviously adds to the whole conversations, the whole use of what data we're using in the census data, that we really haven't got a complete data report and so forth, and so there are estimations, and so I'm sure that a lot of it will be in the courts and be settled by the courts at the end of the day. Just a final last note on some of the things that is a crucial that I continue all that if you've not signed on to Voter Voice yet, I please advise you to do that. The critical times of the session, we reach out to all of our members that we have emails to on Voter Voice and telling them about issues and telling them, once you're registered in the Voter Voice platform, you actually immediately put in your legislative districts, and so when you respond to them, they immediately get your email. So I ask you wholeheartedly to sign on to the voter voice. So once again, thank you for all, and we'll move on now to obviously answering your questions. Well, good morning, and today is June 8th, and session has not ended. As much as maybe we've read in the paper and we thought the General Assembly had finished up, they did get a lot of their work done, but they're still intention to come back at sometime in June. So Andrew, when they come back, what do they have on their agenda?
Yeah, so there was about a dozen bills that were at one point considered priority bills by at least some groups in the General Assembly, and that didn't pass, and those range a lot of different subject matter. There was desire to change the Floyd Act. There was some changes they wanted to do to Medicaid. There were some changes that they wanted to do to a whole sort of variety of issues. But I think that the number one issue that there's consensus that something needs to be done on is an energy bill. As many of folks have read, there's been a lot of concern about ComEd and things like that, but there are some energy issues that the state needs to resolve sooner rather than later. So I think that's the number one issue. I think another big issue is the elected school board in Chicago. Both President Harmon and Speaker Welch have said that that's a priority for them. There was pretty close to agreement, but it did not quick enough to get it over the line. So there's some demand for more ethics bills. There's a variety of issues out there, but I think the energy bill is the one that's really going to yank them back, probably in the next week to 10 days.
Okay. And, obviously we've, for the first time in a long time, we had, 3 out of our 4 leaders were fairly brand new. Overall thoughts about how they performed or how their caucuses performed individually as their new leadership?
Yeah. So the newest leader is House Democrat Speaker Welch. Speaker Welch took over from 39-year long Mike Madigan. So that's a major transition. Really has completely changed the face of Springfield. He had a great year. I mean, he had a pretty strong year. I don't think he got everything he wanted, but he had a strong year. It was a tough year, as we discussed. The maps are always a hot button issue. So it was a tough year, but going through the budget, he and his caucus got a lot of their priorities taken care of. They passed a lot of bills, and I think generally had a pretty strong year. The second newest is Leader McConkey. He's the Senate Republican minority leader. He's just now coming into his own after sort of a hostile takeover from the previous leader in that caucus. Also did well. He's in a super minority. He's got 18 to 59 seats. So it's hard for him to effectuate a lot, but he's, I think, brought more cohesion to that caucus, and that's not a bad thing. And then finally, Senate President Don Harmon is also new. Relatively, this was his second year, but his first year, because of the pandemic, was very atypical. And he also had a strong year. There's clearly some frustration between him and the governor. So we'll see how that continues and goes forward. But all in all, I feel like everybody did okay, but it's still young and everybody's still new. Sure. We're going to continue seeing.
You spoke briefly that and I know that an ethics bill did pass. What was contained within that bill?
Probably less than most folks think should have been. There were some changes. Much of it dealt with the General Assembly members and how they can lobby. And most folks would think the General Assembly members can't lobby, but in reality, in Illinois, they can. They can't lobby themselves, obviously, but they can lobby local governments. They can provide governmental consulting services, not as a registered lobbyist, but as a strategist. So this obviously, confuses the pecuniary interest and has led to lawmakers facing criminal charges in the past. So a lot of that was cleaned up. There were some other sort of tweaks and changes. But most of this dealt with lobbying at units of local government and General Assembly members receiving money for government-related services.
Okay. Well, and finally, I guess just I know that the maps were some were passed, but the congressional map was not finished. Uh, is that one of the things they'll come back and attempt to do in June, or is that something that's postponed till indefinitely?
Well, so the issue here, the concern is that we don't have census data. We have ACS data, which is very different. It's compiled with different purposes and different intentions. And there's a real concern here that if they try and draw congressional maps without census data, that there'll be a successful lawsuit. The requirements on the federal law are just a little bit different than the state law, and there's a little bit less flexibility there. So I think that's the concern. As to when and how that gets resolved, we're just going to have to wait and see.
Well, seeing that we don't have any additional questions at this point in time, it's my pleasure to now introduce Ed Willett, our chairman of our PAC committee.
Hello, my name is Ed Willett. For the past several years, I have chaired the IRTA PAC committee. The committee is composed of 18 regional representatives and the chair. There are current vacancies on the committee from regions 4, 5, 8, 10, 11, and 12. If these vacancies remain unfilled, the members from those regions will have no voice during the 2022 endorsement and election cycle. Please consider a member you know who might want to fill a vacancy. The Illinois Retired Teachers Political Action Committee, IRTA PAC, was conceived as a way for our members to support General Assembly candidates who pledged to support retiree benefits and issues. Candidates for governor were later added to those eligible for IRTA PAC endorsement. Endorsements are based on supportive issues, and no consideration is given to political party or other non-member issues. To be considered for endorsement, a candidate must complete a questionnaire developed by the PAC committee with cooperation from the IRTA staff. Once reviewed, approved candidates are scrutinized by looking at their voting records and/or campaign platforms, recommendations from local units, and staff input. Final endorsed candidates are eligible to receive PAC monies, letters of endorsement, use of IRTA logo and campaign literature and advertisements, IRTA yard signs, and more. During the last election cycle, 35 of the 45 IRTA endorsed candidates were successful in their election bid. The lifeblood of IRTA PAC is the monetary donations received. Many of you will remember passing the hat at local meetings to support the work of the PAC. Several years ago, a second option was added, the $1 per month club. Members can sign up to have $1 deducted from their monthly pensions designated to go to the PAC fund. Over the years, the $1 club has outpaced all other methods and provides about $5 for every $1 raised by other means. We can do better. Of approximately 38,000 members, only about 5,500 have signed up. That number should be much higher. And as area representatives, you can help and be our biggest cheerleaders. Another means of funding occurs at our biennial convention. The monies raised by the silent auction of local unit donated items go to the PAC fund. Many of you will remember 2011 through 2013. The General Assembly had voted to substantially reduce public employee pension benefits. That assault was successfully challenged and ultimately averted by the IRTA. The case bears the name of IRTA member Doris Heaton in Heaton v. Quinn, but the cost was high, over $500,000. Supporting IRTA PAC $1 per month club can help save us expensive litigation and years of uncertainty by helping to elect those who in turn will support us. Please help us by asking each member in your area to join the PAC Fund and each local to support the biennial raffle. Thank you for inviting me to your area conference, and I'm open to any questions. First of all, we do have a volunteer now out of Region 10 that will be joining the PAC committee. And Jeff, and I'm probably going to butcher the poor man's name, Jeff Belosio will be representing Region 10. And again, I think it's imperative that these regions have representation, and not only for that purpose, but because when we go through the endorsement process, we ask those regional representatives for their direct input on the candidacies of prospective General Assembly members and their perspective, because we can now endorse at the gubernatorial level. So getting these slots filled really is a local issue because you know the folks that are interested in the political system and moving forward with that. So, and again, we bring in through the $1 per month club, we bring in almost $5 to every $1 brought in by other means. And while none of us want money to be in politics, unfortunately, the truth is that it is in politics. And so we need that support. We need that financial support. I alluded to the silent auction. Again, it's wildly successful. It's once a year, but it's wildly successful, and it really does help to have articles there. Will we take money from direct contribution? Absolutely. Don't not send your money in. But the baskets and the things that are down there that get auctioned really do attract a lot of attention, and they attract attention to the PAC. So with that, I'm open to any questions.
Ed, there was one question. Can you please repeat what regions still have vacancies?
Sure. So the regions that are still open, let me bring it up on my iPad. So we still have vacancies in regions 4, 5, 8, 11, and 12. And if it would be helpful, and if I still have anything left in the I can tap Jim and at all. I'm willing to come to a local meeting, and address the PAC, how we do the endorsements, but also appeal for representatives to step forward. Anything else? Well, let me see. Please. Oh, okay. I got your message. So if there are no further questions, I'm going to introduce the next speakers, and that's Larry Pfeiffer. I'm not sure that Doug Strand is here. Larry and Doug are the retiree representatives on the TRS board of directors. I really appreciate the work they do. It's tough work. So with that, I'll turn it over to at least Larry, and if Doug's here, Doug as well.
Thank you, Ed. Hi, friends. It's good to be back with you, even if virtually. I do miss the days of the face-to-face meetings, but until that happens, I guess we're going to rely on these and social distancing and getting vaxxed up. So that there is an end in sight. I truly believe that. So, well, let's go over a few numbers today as we talk about an update on your pension system. And I want to thank my friend and communication director, Dave Urbanik at TRS, for getting me the numbers, and there's lots and lots of them. So let's get started. Unfortunately, we're going to start with kind of a somber and a sad statistic. To date, we've lost 416 members, both active and annuitants, due to the virus. And I hope you share with me just a brief moment of silence and keeping their memory and their spirit alive in our hearts. It is sad that this pandemic has had such a large impact on us all. Let's talk a little bit more about the hard numbers of TRS. You can take a look at what our finances were, just a whisker under $60 billion. Keep in mind this was fiscal year numbers. They're showing $54.9 billion. You'll see here in just a bit that the numbers over the last 16 months have been literally all over the board. Revenue this year was about $6.2 billion. Our benefits paid out, and this is the part that you're interested in. Your monthly checks have come, and they're over $7 billion. Investment returns just for the fiscal year, net of fees, was just a little bit over 0.5%. But we'll talk more about that later. Let's skip down to our funding status. We're around 40.5%. Yes, that's low, but that number has been pretty static for about the last 20 years. We're still a very, very large pension system. Let's talk about our membership. What makes up a TRS member? You'll see it's about a third between actives, inactives, and folks like us, benefit recipients. The average pension paid out is about $60,000. Now, let's break down membership breakdown a little farther. We're all active, we're all Tier 1 members. You're noticing that there are more and more Tier 2 members. And it looks like just in about 3-4 years, we're going to be about 50-50 split between the Tier 1 and the Tier 2 members. But at the same time, I know you're interested in just the Tier 1, our current benefits. I would show you that we have an active member out there still teaching in the classroom at 81 years of age, and that makes me smile. We see that our oldest TRS retiree is 109 years of age, and then there's a few other numbers in there for you to skim through. Let's talk a little bit about what happened in 2020 and the challenges and how TRS responded to them. Top line, bold, underlined, TRS member services were unaffected. And that is incredible given the circumstances we had as TRS. Their staff did a significant amount of work from home, but yet unaffected membership benefits were processed. In addition to that, we had an increase in claims. More and more people left the profession of teaching and retired. It looks like it was up 3,600, or they processed 3,600 claims. And they still continue to take phone calls, do staffing, meetings, weekly gatherings. I've got to give the staff at TRS a great deal of credit from what my perspective as a trustee has been. Again, if you ever have problems with TRS services, reach out to myself or any other trustee. We'd like to help get you the assistance, but usually we don't have to worry about that. The staff has done a great job, and I give them full credit for working through some really tough times. Our next slide shows you what I call kind of a yo-yo effect of the markets and investing. Look what we were January of 2020. We had about $54 billion in assets, and just a few months later, we were down to 48.5. That's an 11.8% drop. We were concerned, but at the same time, I think you'll see a little bit later on, our investments are so diversified and so focused on having upcycle, meaning when the market's good, versus down cycle, we can make money going both directions, or at least minimize those losses. Later that summer, we were at 51.6. Then September, the fall of the year, we're about even at 53.5 billion. And then a year later, we're up to $57 billion, a 17.5% increase from March, the low spot. And then following our latest number is we're just shy at the end of March of $60 billion at $59.3 billion in assets, a 22.3% increase from the market low. The next slide, we'll talk about the investment returns, kind of us versus them, and that's always good to look at. If you look at all those numbers crammed in there, I think the most important thing to look at is our long-term, skip down to line 30, our 30-year returns for 18, 19, and 20 are well over 8%. And that's what we as TRS look at, the long-term investing returns, not only for us as annuitants that are already out there retired, but that first-year teacher that has their first deduction taken out and put in the pension system. We have to say, yeah, the pension system will be solvent and be available for you to retire someday as well. And I think it says that very well. Whether you're 85, 65, 45, or 25, TRS will be there for you. Our current rate of, our assumed rate of return is 7%. So we're performing well over the long term. Okay, let's go to the next slide and look at what TRS did in relationship to the world, the rest of the world. See the blue arrow there? No one wants to brag about having a down cycle. We were down 9.95, about 10%. NASDAQ was down 17.8. S&P 500 was down almost 20%, and the Dow Jones was over 26.2%. So you hate to say that you lost less, but we did. We lost less. Something else to keep in mind is TRS has to be very liquid because every month we have to make those payrolls. So we can't have it tied up into long-term commitments. We have to have the liquidity. Liquidity is also good in case there are bargains to be had, and there were several of those that we were able to pick up during some of the market swings that were so volatile. Again, it's worth noting at the bottom of that slide that our 10-year, 20, 30, and 40-year returns, except for the 20-year, which includes in that cycle the down market of 08 and 09, but yet long-term results are very, very good. Let's take a look at our next slide, the challenges that TRS was able to deal with. Retirement, we're up 9% more than a year ago, and over 31 more retirees per month. There's an awful lot of folks that did the big surges, and you can see that they went out during some tough times. What impact do you have with your benefits into the community? TRS economic impacts are big in this state. We have over 250,000 TRS members that live in Illinois, and we have $11.1 billion in earnings, billion with a B. And the economic impact is over $16 billion. You can see that there's a lot of additional data sets that are there, and those numbers are important, I think, to share with elected officials when they talk about the pensions, and you can share about the impact that you personally, as well as the collective group of teachers, active and retirees, have on the Illinois economy as we spend during good times and bad times. Given that, I think it's important to remember if you have any questions about TRS, I encourage you to contact Member Services, whether they're working in Springfield or from home. They've done a great job in getting you the information you need. My friends here at the Illinois Retired Teachers Association can field your calls, or if you have specific questions for me or would like to start scheduling some upcoming fall and winter meetings, I'd love to get out on the road and see you again. But until that time, stay safe, mask up, get your vaccinations. Be well, my friends.
Hi, my name is Douglas Strand. I'm a retired school teacher from United Township High School in East Moline, Illinois. I am the other retired annuitant who was elected to the TRS board a couple years ago. I am very proud to be a representative of the IRTA and am here to help talk to the different groups concerning the TRS and what we do. One of the challenges that we have today is inflation. You may have heard it on the radio, on TV. It's here. Some people say it's coming. I say it's here. And we need to be very careful about that when we look at investments and the TRS assets under management, known as AUM, assets under management. Larry gave you some statistics. We were up here, we dropped down to 48, we're back up to close to 59.2. And the people there who are making the investments are doing a good job being very careful, looking at inflation, looking at risk, looking at the rewards of the different investments that we make, of which there are over 150 different managers we work with outside of the TRS. It's a big job, and I think they handle it pretty well for the situation they just went through and have gone through over time the last couple decades. I would like to talk to you about another challenge that we have on the TRS board. It is to find a new executive director. We have been without an executive director for a few months now, and we are in the process of trying to find one. There's a search going on at the moment. We have hired an outside firm called Korn Ferry, Kornferry. We've been in discussions with them. They have given us some brief updates. There has nothing been finalized yet. We're waiting to have the candidates brought to us to interview and talk to a little bit more. And what I'm personally looking for is someone who can understand, of course, your investments, all the different indexes, the accounting background. There's also something to be said about marketing, communications, but I believe that the person should be well versed in the accounting and finance area, and have an understanding of people, because the TRS is a people job. You know, you are dealing with thousands of people in their livelihood, not just the 190 some people or more who work at TRS, but the retired educators from across the state. Many of them, again, as Larry pointed out, live in the state. I personally, there's been talk to where should that person come from, whether it's he or her. There was talk about them maybe living outside of Springfield. I personally would like to see the person be part of the Springfield community. Thank you for your time and effort. Have a good summer. Thank you much.
Hello again, everyone. I want to first of all thank my friends here at IRTA for bringing this together to have a conversation around your pension system. I want to do a couple quick things. I want to thank Doug, of course, for his input and his conversations to you. I'd also like to thank you for your support you've shown in me as I start to end my first tenure, first term as a TRS trustee. I've enjoyed it immensely, and it's an incredible honor to serve. And I have learned so much about your pension system over this time, and I'm truly grateful for that. And it looks like come July, I'll be starting my second term on the board, and for that, I'm very, very grateful. I'm very grateful. June will be an important meeting. We as a board meet on the 17th and 18th, and that's when we'll set up our tactical plan for the year. That's when we put different funds and percentages in different buckets. I just need to let you know that in the shortest number of words I can use is we're trying to get the most return with the least risk over the best amount of time. So given that, I look forward to serving. I look forward to getting out and visiting with you when we start meeting face to face again. And at this point, I think it's my responsibility to introduce my friend Bill Funkhauser, Vice President of this association, who will be talking about a report on organizational operations that's been recently completed. So thank you all.
Good morning, everyone. The past 15 months exacerbated present challenges for many organizations, including the Illinois Retired Teachers Association. Local units have not been able to meet. Area representatives and regional directors have not been able to visit their units. The IRTA Board of Directors, the Executive Committee, and the standing committees have not been able to meet in person. We have all learned about Zoom meetings, and while it's a good way to take care of business, you miss out on the personal interactions. We have all had to make changes in the way we do things, and this includes the Illinois Retired Teachers Association. With the forced necessity to think about how we do things, it was felt that this would be a good time to take a hard look at our organization. We decided to contract with a consulting firm to do a review of all aspects of IRTA. We sent out a proposal for bids, and after receiving the bids, it was decided to contract with Brewer Pratt Solutions to conduct a review of our organizational effectiveness and provide recommendations for systemic and constitutional changes to ensure the organization remains viable, resilient, and financially strong. To accomplish this, Brewer-Pratt used the following processes. First, data-based assessment of relevant materials such as the IRTA Constitution and bylaws. A Zoom-based kickoff meeting with senior staff members. A Zoom-based focus group with board members, 4 or 5 per group. In the first session that I participated in, there were 5 of us, with Elise Brewer-Pratt, the chief executive, and Andrew Chamberlain, chief strategist for Brewer-Pratt. Andrew is British and had a very nice accent that we enjoyed. With just 5 participants, we were able to have a lot of involvement from each person. An online staff survey and follow-up with one-to-one phone calls. An online full membership survey where an email with a link to the survey was sent to all members who have an email address on file. An online board competency self-assessment exercise where again an email with a link to the exercise was sent to all board members. And an online survey of volunteers who staff the committees where again an email link was sent to this survey to all committee members. After gathering information, Brewer-Pratt then compiled a 30-page report with 41 recommendations for possible changes in our organization. The recommendations were grouped into the following categories. First, organization with 11 recommendations, volunteer engagement and management with 12 recommendations, staffing with 6 recommendations, and governance with 12 recommendations. Some of the recommendations are for procedural changes and others constitutional changes. It was easy to see that Andrew had written at least part of the report because his British accent came through with terms such as whilst. After having time to individually review the report, the executive committee held a Zoom conference with representatives of Brewer-Pratt to go over their recommendations and to ask questions. Then, after having time to consider what was said in the Zoom conference, the executive committee held its first in-person meeting since 2019. This gave the members a chance to again ask questions and discuss among themselves the recommendations of the consultants and to decide which of the recommendations the committee feels should be implemented. As a result of this discussion, the executive committee will be sending its recommendations for procedural changes to the board of directors and recommendations for constitutional changes to the Constitution Committee, who will then decide which possible changes to present to the delegate assembly at the convention in October. I will be glad to try and answer any questions that you may have. Good morning again, everyone. I don't see that we have any questions as of this time. I would mention that I talked about procedural changes. The executive committee did come up with a couple of things there that we're looking at. One of the recommendations was that we develop a strategic plan for the next 3, 5, and 10 years. And the executive committee is going to be looking very closely at that and working to get that developed. Another is like type of procedures you use during our board meetings. They would say we should think about having a consent agenda where certain common items are no longer put on the agenda to be gone over piece by piece, but rather are accepted by consent unless someone wants to discuss them. Then there are the possible constitutional changes that are being recommended from our study. There will be a meeting of the Constitution Committee coming up the first part of July where they will look over these recommendations and decide which of these we might want to pursue following the advice given by the Executive Committee as to which ones they think would be good to follow with. And anything that the Constitution Committee then decides to move forward with will be presented to the Delegate Assembly in October for their consideration. Now, if there are any questions, I would be glad to answer them.
Bill, we do have one
We
question.
have one here. Will the proposed? Yes.
Will the proposed changes be published before the
see.
convention?
The proposed changes will be published in the convention issue of the IRTA newsletter coming out, this fall, after the Constitution Committee has had a chance to meet and decide which ones to pursue. And is there anything else that we have? I do not see anything else, so I would like to introduce a gentleman I've come to know over the years. As an area representative, I attended many meetings, and very often this gentleman was there as well. And since he has been moved up in his organization, he's now a regional vice president for AMBA. And many of you have seen him at your local meetings. And I'm sure even though his position has changed, he's still going to get around and meet with us from time to time. So let me introduce Larry Newman.
Good morning to all Illinois Retired Teacher Association members. My name is Larry Newman, Regional Vice President with AMBA. I've been with AMBA since 2009, starting out as an agent, then as a district manager for the past 8 years, and now in my new role as Vice President of our Midwest region. As I'm speaking, please type any questions that you may have in the chat, and I or one of my colleagues will do the best to answer any questions at the end of my presentation. In my role, I work closely with the staff and Member Benefits Committee to make sure that all members and prospective members have the best-in-class discount programs and benefits designed to work with your current health insurance. AMBA has been in business since 1981, and the partnership we have with the Illinois Retired Teachers Association goes back to 2004. One of the original benefits is the dental program from Emeritus and the vision plan with VSP. I can assure you all that both of these programs remain staples within our suite of benefits and are still a primary reason that a new retiree will hopefully become a member of your association. Over the years, we have added several new discounts and benefits, so be sure to go to your newly designed website and print off a copy of your benefits in the members only section. There you will find two of our newest programs, the Children's Whole Life from Mutual of Omaha and the Fixed Indexed Annuity program from Emeritus. I will be providing a few slides about these programs in just a few minutes. I'll also provide you with the contact information of our Illinois District Managers Nancy Kramer and Gary DeVito. Each of these individuals will be excellent contacts for you to discuss any new programs that you or your family members might have interest in. We will also provide you with a direct QR code so you can request a benefits review via Zoom or in person as we get back to some level of normal. This is something that we have done with thousands of members throughout the crazy year of 2020. We feel you will find this to be an educational and valuable experience. So stay safe and healthy. We look forward to helping you throughout 2021. Thank you.
Good morning. This is Gary DeVito, not Larry Newman. Hopefully you can all hear me. So Larry had a little bit of a computer emergency this morning, I guess we'll call it. So he asked me to fill in, and I tried to replicate it as much as I could, what he's done. And even with the facial hair, I tried to grow that really quickly. But what I'd like to do this morning is, as he mentioned, I'm going to share my screen and show a few slides regarding some of the new benefits that have been recently added, specifically the Children's Whole Life and the Fixed Indexed Annuity. And hopefully this will show here shortly. All right. So this has been a very popular new benefit from Mutual of Omaha. It is a Children's Whole Life, and it is for children anywhere ages 2 weeks to 17 years old. And this has been real popular with retirees buying it simply as a gift for their grandkids and what have you. The face amounts can be anywhere from $5,000 to $50,000. Very limited underwriting. There's no medical exam, just a couple of health questions. and it does build cash value. It's guaranteed at age 100. There's a guaranteed insurability rider, which we'll touch on here in a second, and a waiver of premium. What's really nice about this program is it's extremely inexpensive for around a couple $100 a year, about $17 a month or so. For a 2-week-old, I think on up to about a 4-year-old, you can get $50,000 of benefit. And when you do the math on that, it's an extremely good value. You'd have to pay into it for about 250 years to get to the death benefit, which is just an unheard of amount for this kind of a program. Again, it does have a guaranteed insurability rider, where that particular child, as they grow and mature, they can buy more coverage up to 5 times during their lifetime without having to show any evidence of insurability. A couple of the events you can see on the screen: when they get married, purchase of a home, birth or adoption of a child, and then on some specific birthdays. So again, it basically what you're doing is giving them a great value, a great program, and also you're locking in their insurability for down the road, as they change. So it's really been a very popular program. Again, it's a great value. In addition to that, so the other thing that Larry had mentioned was the fixed index annuity. The reason that AMBA has brought this to the front is that many retirees are concerned that they're going to outlive their savings. The reason again is just to ensure that you don't outlive your savings. This is coming from the same provider as your dental coverage, which is Emeritus. They are an A+ rated company that's been around for about 120, 130 years. It does provide a lifetime of income and safety. It allows you access to competitive returns. Excuse me. In fact, with one of the programs within this annuity, it's averaged about 4.19% over the last 10 years. With another program, it's averaged about 5.67%. It's a tremendous hedge against inflation. It is tax deferred. The nice thing about it is you're able to take advantage of the upside in the market, but it's guaranteed that you will never lose your money. So it's again a tremendous asset. A number of retirees have called this a CD killer, because CDs just aren't paying a whole lot these days. As I mentioned, Emeritus has been around for 130 years, so they've been through a whole lot of things: World War I, World War II, the Great Depression, a number of other wars. Certainly, if you want to call it the Depression of 2007 and 8, the pandemic back in 1918, and this particular pandemic. And they are a very, very solid and strong and very conservative company. And again, it's a great alternative for a lot of different types of investments that you might have out there. Again, there's tax advantages to it, gives you a great return, taking advantage of the stock market while never, ever losing. It doesn't get much better than that. And then, again, there's no underwriting with this. It does take qualified and non-qualified money, and basically what that means is whether it's an IRA or non-IRA type of investment, it can handle both. There's great liquidity to it, flexible lifetime income options, again, where you can have a guaranteed income for life, and there's some long-term care advantages to it as well. If you have any questions on any of these new programs or any of the programs that have been in place for a while, happy to answer those today also. If you have further interest, feel free to take your smartphone, put it right over this QR code, and it will take you right to an AMBA web page, and you can request more information at that point.
Gary, we do have one
if there are
question
other
in the
questions,
chat.
I'll take those. But okay. And, oh, okay, there it is. Okay, I purchased 5 years of transportation insurance the month before the pandemic started. I was told there would be no extension of benefits, even though there were no trips allowed for sick. How can we get our 5 years extended? That I'll have to check into. I had not heard that before, but certainly happy to see what we can do. Is there a way, so it's Mary Lang. Let me just write down that question. And I will get an answer for you. And lastly, well, if there's any other questions, I'll take those too, but I will leave you with this. I was speaking with a retired geography teacher last week, and he asked me, what's really the best thing about Switzerland? And I said, I'm not sure. Boy, it could be chocolate, could be the watches, but I said, I'm not sure. And he says, I'm not really sure either, but their flag is a big plus. I'm sure. I see Joanne on the screen there chuckling a little bit. Were there any other questions that I can help with at this point? If there aren't, I will pass this along to your Area 1 rep, Joanne Nelson. Joanne?
I want to acknowledge my area regional directors, mainly because they've been working for 4 years and their terms are going to be up at the December of this year. We're going to be electing at our convention in October on the 18th and 19th, regional directors for all these regions. They will be replaced, and you will be getting phone calls, people, different groups, different units. You'll be hearing from Tricia Klim, and she wants to find people to replace them, and then we'll vote on them in the fall. Region 1 right now is led by Linda Ott, and Region 7 is Nirvana Aarons, and Region 8 is Gail Wright, and they've really done a good job. I also got a message that we are being recorded, and that they're going to, if you've missed out on part of this or somebody else might want to hear about it, that it's going to be sent out as a link to everyone in Area 1 that we have email for. The other thing is we're going to have tables that you can go to after this is done. And one of the tables is going to be for all the unit presidents to join in. And Linda Knott is going to lead a Q&A. We're going to kind of discuss what's going on with our units during this time of COVID, if you're back in, and how you're doing it, and how successful is it, lessons learned. We thought this would be a good time to get that done. There's also other tables that you can go to, and they say you have pictures of these people that are joining the table, so you can just go in and chat and see people you might not have seen for a while. I think it's time for the spin the wheel time. This is our Amazon, and they're going to spin the wheel and see who our winners will be. We've got 2 left. Oh, it went into Julie Wenzel. Congratulations. We'll try and get that to you real soon. Lynn Gibson is the second winner here. All right. Now, presidents, we're going to be at table 5. So evidently we're going to have pictures of tables to go to. So I haven't done this, so good luck. That's it for the day. Thanks for coming.